Well, howdy to all y'all out there in Two Chicks with Hiking Sticks land.
I'm Monica.
Hey, we're Two Chicken. Two Chicken.
She's been a little...
I haven't been drinking anything, I promise. So, we are your new favorite podcast.
Well, much tea.
Yeah, too much tea. To which we're not actually new anymore. We've been around for months now.
I know, right?
Mm-hmm. But we want to welcome you to our podcast where we cover things that are natural, cultural, and historical in our world.
Mostly around parks.
Mostly around parks, but it could be cultural centers.
Could be conservation places.
Yeah.
It could just be a church.
Right. But that's kind of cultural.
It is cultural.
Yeah, there you go. And we want to be sure also that if you like our content, go check out our other content. And also make sure you subscribe to us because we would really appreciate it.
Throw us out a like.
Yes. And we have merch and other ways to support us in our description in our bio on our YouTube.
Yeah.
So, all right. So today's an exciting one. They're all exciting, but this is particularly exciting.
This is what happens when somebody likes history.
This has nothing to do with history.
Well, you know. Yeah.
Today's topic is Acadia National Park. Okay, I do that because Acadia National Park has always been one of those parks that I'm like, oh man, I don't know if I'll ever get to.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't sure I was ever going to get to it. Now, it made it somewhat more doable when I had driven to Alaska. I'm like, well, heck, if I can drive to Alaska, I can drive anywhere.
That is true.
Because Acadia National Park is where? It's up in Maine.
Acadia?
Well, it's not called Acadia, but yeah, it's up in Maine.
It was a good guess.
Yeah. So I actually went to Acadia National Park in 2024, and I was so excited about this trip because all I've ever heard about Acadia National Park is about how beautiful it is and these rocky beaches and, just all this stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Now, a lot of people go when it's leaf peeper time, right?
Right.
Because there are certain places you want to go when it's leaf peeper time. But because that's a prime time to go, I don't go to places when it's prime time to go. Exactly. I go right before that prime time or right after that prime time. But I'm never anywhere during prime time.
Yep.
And it was worth every mile driven to get there.
Okay.
So... highly recommend it.
I've never been.
It is one of the which I find interesting. It's one of the top 10 visited national parks, big national parks, and I'm like, I don't know how it's not higher, other than its location makes it probably a little out of reach.
Okay, difficult to get to.
Yeah. So now it's in Maine, so you know where Maine is. It's far northeast over there.
Right.
But you can fly into Bangor.
Bangor.
Yeah, you can.
That's where Stephen King lives.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't know that. So you can fly in there, and then down to the park is like an hour away.
You didn't know that Stephen King lived in Bangor, Maine?
Did I mention I'm not a Stephen King fan?
Oh my God. Okay.
I know.
Just talk about the park. Oh. Trying hard not to leave this table.
I'm not a not fan, but I'm just not a fan. I couldn't tell you if I read a book of his. Yeah.
Oh, my heart.
Did I just stab you right there?
Good night. I thought we were friends.
Well, so key difference here, right? Stephen King, nonfiction. Stephen King, nonfiction.
Not just Stephen King, but I don't want to get into this boring nonfiction stuff. Let's go with the parks.
So anyhow,
Acadia
along. National Park. Yeah, so you can get there driving because it's a beautiful drive to get up there. Or you can fly, which is great and wonderful too. Now, let's talk a little bit about the logistics of how this is laid out. Because most people, when you start looking for Acadia National Park, you keep seeing this thing called Mount Desert. Mount Desert is kind of like this peninsula island. It's not an island, so it's like, I guess, more like a peninsula, but it's like an offshoot from the mainland. And you get over there, most people stay in Bar Harbor when they go to this park. I stayed in Bar Harbor. Because that's all part of this area. And when you think about Acadia, think about this big thing and think there's a west side and an east side.
Okay.
West side and east side. Most everything is really kind of on the east side. There are some things to do on the west side. There are a couple little islands that are a part of the park as well. And then there's another peninsula, or I guess it's a peninsula, called the Scudic Peninsula. That's also a place you will want to go to. So there are 3 parts of this park that you want to make sure you spend time in. So you want to make sure you have several days to spend.
Okay.
So I just put that out there as an initial setting of how you're going to look at this park and probably how you're going to think about doing things.
Okay. Good to know.
So this has been a park since I think 1929. It was originally named, I can't say it. Do you know how to speak French?
Not really.
Yeah, I can't
Not
either.
well, let me put it that way.
But it's interesting because it was originally established, I guess, probably as a national monument, which was the Sieur de Mont National Monument. And it later was renamed Lafayette National Park.
I could pronounce that.
I can too. And finally became Acadia National Park in 1929.
Okay.
Now, I'm not sure the significance other than, of course, up there was a lot of French influence
Right.
up in that general area. Because you think about, it's like hop, skip, and a jump to Canada. And particularly that part of Canada is
Okay.
very French forward.
Yes, that makes sense. Yeah.
So there are a lot of those influences in that area.
Okay.
So, anyhow. So you've got the Scudic Peninsula, you've got the Maine Mountain Desert Island. That is where you're going to do a lot of your activities. And as I said, this is a top 10 visited park. And I would suggest, me personally, I was like, staying on the Mount Desert Island was like the key thing to do. Because you're going to drive a lot while you're there. There's a lot of hiking, but there's a lot of driving because they have some scenic drives to do there.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah. So, and they're really well marked and intentioned in that there's a lot of one-way travel. So that way you don't have to worry about two-way traffic. And it allows you to kind of get around because this place becomes huge impacted during like big season. Like you have to have reservations to get in and to be able to travel around.
Okay.
They have shuttle buses that will take you in and around. Because I know when I was studying to do this trip, it was like, okay, so how are we going to get around? Do we need to take a shuttle bus? Is a shuttle bus important? Can we take our own vehicle? Is there going to be enough parking? Is there all the questions that come up? If you are going in the shoulder seasons, best bet. That way you don't have to worry about a shuttle bus. You can actually drive. And there was plenty of parking for us. And again, we went in May before Memorial Week.
Right.
And there was plenty of parking to be had. And it was not overcrowded in any particular place. Downtown in Bar Harbor, there are lots of shops and places to stop and eat. None of those were overrun by a lot of people. There weren't like huge wait times or anything.
Cool.
And again, you could drive and you could park, which I thought was key.
That's excellent. And that's just a good working plan for any time that you want to go to any park or any place, just, not just a park, but any place that is highly visited by tourists is to really try to hit the shoulder seasons. Try to go during the not least popular times because there's a reason that they're least popular, but less popular times. So yeah, that's just good advice all the way around.
Yeah, because they have one of the main features they have there is called Cadillac Mountain. Everybody wants to go to Cadillac Mountain, and that does have restrictions when it's busy season about being able to get up there, which is understandable because there's not a lot of room to maneuver up there. But the hiking and stuff, getting up there, and then, just the walking around and looking, because they have a color of granite that is just remarkable to me. The colors are the pinks and the greens and the blacks and the reds it just was so beautiful.
Huh.
The color of the granite that was there. And then the views you get from Cadillac Mountain, which is why everybody likes to go there, because it's the highest point on the U.S. Atlantic coast. That's why a lot of people like to go there. And it's one of the first places of the United States to see a sunrise.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Which is kind of cool.
That's cool. Yeah.
I was not there for that. The party I
a
was
little
with
early.
did not want to do the early sunrise. I think there's only one park I've ever gotten up for to do an early sunrise.
I'm kind of shocked.
Well, I'll get up, but nobody else will go with
okay.
me.
Yes, that makes sense.
But another park to do an early sunrise, the Grand Tetons. Just saying. That's a good one. So
Note to self.
if you ever go to the Grand Tetons, do the morning.
Wake up early.
That's right, and see the sunrise and look over at the wonderful Teton Range. So anyhow, so you've got the Cadillac Mountain that you want to do. There are about 64 miles of rugged coastline that they claim that they have, and you can take drives along there. But the best thing to do is to get out and hike it.
Yeah.
Because you get to hike, you get to then stop, you get to look, you get to see the water crashing up on these huge rocks and all. you can't beat that. You really
Sounds
can't.
gorgeous. Yeah.
It really is. But then they have other areas, and especially more like I think on the west side of the park is where you have more of like the ponds and the lakes and a little bit more flatter land than what you have with some of the rocky edges that you have on the east side.
So more moderate hikes, maybe, or easier hikes on that side.
And they have what are called carriage roads, which are kind of like they're walking trails that you can kind of walk through, or biking. You can do biking in there as well. So, but they do boast because they're really at this crossroads of this water, mountain, tree, lakes, all of these diverse systems, ecosystems that are here. They really boast the birding that happens up there because you have all these diverse ecosystems that are there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
It is. It sounds cool.
Well, yeah. So we did a hike that went down a bit, went down to Sand Beach. Highly recommend getting down to Sand Beach. We'd also gone down to, it was Sand Beach. There was Thunder Hole, I think it's called, and then there's Otter something. Let me see if I have that. But the hikes there are just, because you can't, I mean, how many times can you actually hike around water with rocks and beautiful stunning trees and beautiful colored granite? I mean, all in one.
Yeah.
And then if you scooch over to the Scudic Peninsula, again, just another, you have to drive over there, but there's a driving tour. It's a one-way tour that goes around the Scudic Peninsula. I highly recommend that because you can get out on the rocks and walk around on the rocks that are right there at the Atlantic Ocean.
Oh, wow.
I mean, you're literally walking out on these rocks that are right there with these waves crashing up.
That sounds gorgeous.
I love this park. I would like to go back to this park many more times, but it's kind of far away. But you need to go if you can go.
Sounds a little far, but...
So Sand Beach, Thunder Hole, and then Otter Point. Those are the three different hiking areas. Now, we did one long hike that kind of went down there. It was like a 4-mile hike. If you go down, it's like 2 miles, and then back out, it's like another 2 miles. The good thing is that when you kind of get down to the end, like half of our party was like, oh, not sure we can make it all the way back. And so we could drive down and come pick them up. So we hiked down the 2, came back the 2, and went down and drove down to pick up the other 2. So it's...
So you can mix and match.
You can mix and match based on what your abilities are, because it can be, again, you're climbing in some areas. It's not like it's just an elevation thing. Sometimes you're having to climb over rocks.
So there's some scrambling involved.
A little bit of scrambling.
Okay.
But, if you have your sticks and all, you're perfectly good.
And if you are a beginning hiker or you don't understand some of the terminology, basically scrambling is climbing up little rocks.
Yeah.
Not big rock climbing, but maybe there's some rocks that you're going to have to actually take high steps or low steps or...
Well, and I always think of scrambling is if I have to use my 4 appendages.
Yes.
Like to hold on to a rock.
That's a perfect definition, actually, yes.
To pull myself up, kind of thing. And you do some of that on this trail.
Okay.
But, again, worth every penny to put that exertion out to be able to go to some of these places. Again, the beaches and all, they have a section that you can get down on a beach and watch the waves come in, watch the rocks. It's just a beautiful area if you got people just sitting out on the beach. I mean, it's not a place I think that people just like say I'm going to go to the beach, but you go to the beach just to go take your pictures because it's a beautiful spot to do that.
Right. So. That sounds nice. Put it on my list for one day. Nothing major historical about this area, or
well,
other than what you mentioned at the beginning.
Other than that stuff, I mean, I didn't really. I mean, there were indigenous folks that obviously were there. The Wabanaki, I think, is what they were called.
Okay.
That were here in this area. Obviously, there were French that were in this area. One of the things on the west side, I do want to make sure that I give some proper love to the west side, is they do have a lighthouse over there.
Ooh.
They do have a lighthouse over there. I'm going to see if I can find the name of the lighthouse, but the Wabanaki people are the indigenous folks, and they were there over 12,000 years ago. But yeah, so there is a lighthouse, and they'll tell you at the visitor center when you talk to a ranger. Now, I like a good lighthouse.
Sure.
I'll show a picture of this lighthouse. But it wasn't all that.
Well,
Because
okay.
I think that my view of a lighthouse has been skewed by the wonderful, beautiful pictures people take of lighthouses.
Yes, me
This was
too.
not one of those.
Yes, I agree. I agree. We all see those pictures of the gorgeous
Yes.
lighthouses that have been rehabbed, and they're beautiful and they're colorful, and
Yeah.
they're not all like that.
It wasn't like that at all. But it wasn't like it was horrible, but it just wasn't all that picturesque. And in order to get to the picturesque part, to be able to get a picturesque view of it, to get a nice picture of it, you did have to kind of scramble down on some rocks to look back up at it to take a picture. So most of the pictures that you will see of this lighthouse are going to be of that scrambling, because if you just go where you can get to and park and kind of walk over to it, it ain't that pretty. So I hate to be Debbie Downer, but if I have limited time at Acadia Park, National Park, I'm going to stay on the east side. I'm going to stay on the side where Bar Harbor is. I'm not going to go to the west side. And then if I have a little bit of extra time, I'm going to do the east side, and I'm going to do the Scudic Peninsula. I'm not going to do the west side. But then if I have 3 days, I'll do the west side.
Well, there you go.
So that's how I would
You know
break it
what?
up.
I think that helps a lot, because if your time is limited, a lot of times you're stopping at these places on your way to somewhere else. So it is good to know. And there's a lot of national park sites, websites that will tell you, if you have 1 day, visit this part,
Yes.
2 days, this part, or if you have 1 hour, this is where you want to go, 3 hours, go here. It is always helpful to know that, because you want to maximize your time, because, even though we're retired, some people are still working and they're taking time off to do this stuff, and you really want to get as much in as you possibly can, and still enjoy where you are and what you're doing. So
Yeah, and we weren't sure while we were going up there, like, how much time we needed, because it wasn't really clear about, because, any park you go to, you could spend a weekend and never get everything done. But it's like, we wanted to make sure we hit the highlights, and Cadillac Mountain is the highlight of going to Acadia National Park. It just is, right? Because it's beautiful. Some of those hikes that are the coastal hikes that I talked about, going down to Sand Beach, that's a beautiful hike. You want to be able to do that. But yeah, from there, it's like you start to figure out, where do I want to spend extra time here? Now, while this isn't necessarily always on the way to someplace, because you're up in Maine, if you do want to fly in, you just know, maybe spend a couple of days or so. But
and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but it's important. One of the things that you said, Susan talks about planning for these trips, especially with national parks, because now there's the cuts at the park. The rangers don't have time to do a lot of stuff. They've got a lot of timed entries, so you do plan, but don't be such a planner that you can't switch at the last minute. Maybe you read about this lighthouse and you thought, oh great, I'm gonna add this to my list of lighthouses. But you get there and you look at it and you're like, I don't need to spend a lot of time here looking at this. I can switch this and go do this over here.
Yeah.
Just to be flexible with your planning. It's good to plan, but it's also good to tell yourself, I don't have to stick to this. I can do this. I think that's really important. I think sometimes people forget that.
Well, and where that really comes in handy is that, and I've always said this and I will always say it, is that when you go to a national park, you go to the visitor center and you talk to the rangers. Now, the unfortunate thing, like Monica said, is that the rangers are a bit tied up now. They may be harder to get a hold of, but if you can get in line and talk to a ranger, which we had to be in line to talk to a ranger, if you can do that and get their feedback, they're going to give you and tell you what those highlights are. Now, you may think you know what you want to do, but they're going to tell you what you really don't want to miss out on.
Right.
And that's where our plans changed a little bit about things that they said and suggested. Because, I may think, oh, this hike may be a better hike, but they're going to tell me, no, but if you do this hike, you're going to see X, Y, and Z.
Exactly.
So they're going to have that input. And we were so thankful that they did. And a beautiful map. We have a beautiful map that you can also pick up at the visitor center, that, you can see clearly where the trails are and everything, so that way you're not going to get lost. Because you all need your brochures. I didn't even bring mine as a prop today.
Oh, look at that.
Or my Junior Ranger badge.
Oh, my God. What are we missing?
My Junior Ranger badge.
Yes. Golly. Yeah, you need that. Let's just pause the podcast for a minute while you go get it.
Well, and I want to just say, too, is that back in 1604, Samuel de Champlain, he mapped the rugged coast over here off of Maine. And this is why it became known, or he called it, the Isle de Monde Desert way back then. And I think it's funny because we also talked about who had mapped for our episode, we have an episode on Glacier Bay National Park. We talked about how Captain Vancouver was mapping the West Coast. And it's just interesting. So you had, Captain Vancouver on the west side, you had, Samuel de Champlain on the east side mapping these coasts that we are now part of the United States.
Yeah, yeah. I have learned a lot about all these different people mapping stuff.
Woo!
Yeah, I'm learning begrudgingly. Be quiet.
I don't even know what to say to that.
Just don't say anything. I'm just, I'm forced to learn.
That's right. Everybody with us is too. But I would just suggest you've got to get Acadia National Park on your list, and you need to go. And I would just suggest to do it in an off season, because you will avoid the crowds. You won't have to use shuttles or anything. You don't need a reservation to get up Cadillac Mountain, which I think is important. And you will just be amazed at the views.
Let me just ask for the people that don't have an off season, or they want to take off maybe when their kids are on vacation in the summer. Is it the only thing you're going to be dealing with if you go to someplace like this would be the crowds? It's not so much going to be the weather, or, is the weather pretty much temperate?
Well, the weather, they just say that the weather can change a lot.
Right.
When you're there. Yeah. When we were there, we had, of course, it was May. There was some cold, there was some wet, there was some sunshine.
Okay.
You don't know what you're going to get. And this is why when we talk about what goes in your hiking bag, you need coats for all seasons.
Yeah.
So those, nice, feather coats that you could squish up into little balls or what have you, or a good rain jacket, I think are just important no matter the season that you go in.
Agreed. So, but really, if you are going on a season or in the season when it's very busy, your main thing is going to be the crowds.
Yeah, you need patience.
Okay. And getting there early is probably a good thing. Or sometimes late.
Late is
sometimes
good.
Getting in before the gates close, or before you can still stay in there once the gates close, right?
I think
or
so.
not the gates close, but admission is done.
Yeah.
At most of these parks you can stay in there.
Yeah.
You just you're not going to be dealing with the crowds because most of the people will be leaving.
Yeah, because you have to remember a lot of people go early because they want to go Cadillac Mountain because they want to see the sunrise. So a lot of people want to go early. Depends on if you want to see it or not, but you have to plan in advance. And again, if you're in the busy seasons, it's a reservation system to be able to get up Cadillac Mountain.
Yeah.
So
okay.
Again, planning helps. And if it's heavy season, you're going to have to be taking shuttles everywhere. So just plan on that.
Yeah, just be prepared.
But I do highly recommend the town of Bar Harbor in terms of fantastic restaurants, lots of shopping that you could do there. It is a quaint little town, nice little walkable little town. Find a place to park and then just walk around and shop. It was really nice.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So hopefully you've enjoyed that and learned a little bit of something, and maybe you're putting Acadia on your list of places to go to next year.
Heck yeah.
All right. Well, if you enjoy our content, please like us, subscribe to us, and get notifications every time we put out a podcast.
Share if you think that you might have a friend that's interested in hearing about what we just talked about.
Yeah, and drop a comment if you have questions about any of the places that we talk about. We can go into more depth about our experiences attending any of them.
Or some places that you might like to know about. Maybe we've been there, one of us, somewhere along the way.
Yeah.
You can buy some merch.
That's right. We've got links to merch, links to supporting us.
You can buy us
coffee. Yep. Got that all in our description as well.
All right.
All right. Well, if we have nothing else, then I think it's time to
Hike your own hike.
And we'll check y'all later.
Bye, guys.
Bye.